okay, if we observe subatomic particles, we see that just in the sheer act of observing them, they change their appearance because, again, we are observing ourselves. So we have to realize that the same thing goes for us as human bodies, which is just a cluster of subatomic particles, not wrapped together. I guess you could say that densely packed together in a sense, but more so just like a mist of particles that have clumped together to form this avatar that you call the body. So if you're being observed by society, because you're observing society to be observed by it, you deteriorate at a more rapid rate because of the sheer will of the collective consciousness in society. You're going to a place where people insist, which is will, persist. They insist that people cannot live hundreds of years. So just to be observed by those people deteriorates you and breaks your will just from being observed by them. It's not that it's something that you cannot deflect or cleanse yourself of, this residue. But if you were to live in solitude, in harmony within yourself, you would not age at the same rate. You would not behave, of course, in the same way because you're not being observed by anything other than the universal observer, the self. So when we're talking about superfoods and these things, as far as, because all food, especially if you're talking about game, talking about blood sacrifice, which is a game, which is games. Game is blood sacrifice. Any game you're playing is a blood sacrifice, regardless. You look at any sport. Somebody is getting murdered somewhere along the line. They usually use it as a story to promote a game or something. If there's a blood sacrifice somewhere along the lines, no, this has not stopped. People still get murdered at altars, basically. It's no different than you killing a pig and then bringing it to your divine altar, which is your body, which is your temple. You're sacrificing it, the temple, and the pig, the blood of the pig, because of course Jesus is the pig or the Lamb of God. So anybody born in the hour of the pig, you might want to look into that if you know anything about Eastern astrology. But anyway, as far as sacrificing, you're sacrificing at this divine altar for this source or this creator. And for the most part, people aren't even doing it for themselves. And then you got that other level of it too, sacrificing people with more refined parasites. We're talking about superfoods. A really embedded parasite takes on this idea that there is, it's just to create a level of need to remove a certain level of responsibility. That's really what it comes down to. Like, oh, I need these external things, so I have to sacrifice this part of me because I'm dependent on something outside myself, even though everything outside myself comes from within myself. So it's a wild illusion. But if you're looking at anybody that is so concerned with external foods in a sense to where they're like, oh, nah, it's got to be superfoods. It's got to be organic. I understand the way to be. I understand that. I get it. I understand why somebody would want to avoid the poisons from pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, why they would want to avoid hybrid cultivars that are really young in age. Because, I mean, even if you're eating garlic's like 7,000 years old. It's a hybrid. It's a fake plant. So think about the last 20 to 30 years, how many plants have been created in the sense of hybridization. That's a totally different organism than the original version. That's how you know it's a hologram. It's not really real. It's a cultivar. So it's a really refined parasite that has these people in that situation. Like, oh no, I only eat superfoods, organic. I only eat this or this. The more you get like that, to where your armor is determined by something outside of you, the more weak you really make yourself. And that's just from a refined parasite. You're feeding something very refined, something very intelligent, something very ancient within you. So if we're talking about collective consciousness building, being an architect, because we're all architects, especially the archetypes. You got angels, which are angles of light, pieces, fragments. Not to say that they're bad, but they are pieces of a reflection. And their children are usually pieces of pieces. But if we're talking about architects, the real archetypes, most of them don't even know who or what they are, a lot of them. And they don't know that they're major players in this thing. Because if we talk about people, heavily melanated people, most people, have this view of heavily melanated people being impoverished people, generally speaking, globally or worldwide, however you want to look at it. But that's because the rapid manifestation power that comes with high concentrations of melanin. If you have a high concentration of melanin, which is the creative force, the common grapevine in us all, the base common denominator, then you rapidly manifest your thoughts and emotions. So you don't need that many heavily melanated people to power an entire structure. As long as you keep them ignorant of what they are and who they are, you can live off them and their progeny for eternity. Because we all have eternity. So, that's again, when someone's in hell for eternity, the eternity is what they make it until they realize that hell is what they make it. Or so we're talking about as far as the archetypes, basically having their wave being rode by an archon. Archon, confidence man. A con, basically a copy, an illusion, a hologram of the archetype, a reflection of the archetype that archetypes feed into as if they are the real source. So they can only copy. They can't create. So they ride the wave, they copy what they need to, and then they drop the archetype when the energy gets low. So these are very refined parasites in and outside our worlds. And we can really determine what's what when we get in complete solitude, to where the influences are miles and miles away. Complete solitude, to where you go on this hiatus, and as subatomic phenomenon, you being subatomic phenomenon, your cells will all behave differently. And you will age at a different rate. So ROYALT512 @yahoo.com. Vegan for the texts on Amazon in ebook format. Taylor Bud is the Facebook parasite. Jesus Christ 19 on IG. Check it out. Check it in.